5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Awful Takes podcast, where we talk about movies, music, pop culture, and we have awful takes about them. I am in no position to be recommending things or reviewing them, but here I am, and I'm doing it anyways. My name is Nabahi. I am joined by my co-host again, Wallied.
Hello, I'm Wallied from Sergata Productions.
He is here. We are both here today. We are excited to be talking about our favorite things in movies, and it's interesting thinking about the things that go on in life and how hearing about the news and movies kind of ties into it. This week was very busy. It was Cinemacon, and there was quite a few announcements that came out that me and Walid want to discuss the stuff we were kind of interested in. Mm-hmm. And obviously, we'll keep it very brief. We didn't see any trailers or any footage that was shown at Cinemacon. So as far as that stuff, I don't know anything. These are just like few announcements. Walid, yes. I know you're a big Edgar Wright fan. Isn't that right?
That is right, yes. No pun intended. He is one of my favorite filmmakers ever and one of my biggest inspirations. And so I heard that he has a new film coming out that was announced called The Running Man. And apparently it's a remake?
The Running Man is a movie that came out, I believe, in the 80s with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's about a TV game show in like the dystopian future where contestants try to hide from like assassins, and obviously you win money if you win, or something along those lines. Very cheesy. Obviously, it has Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's in the 80s, but the idea I feel like is interesting enough, and I feel like the idea is something that could work very well with Edgar Wright's kind of style to kind of help make it his own unique take on the story rather than just being a remake of that, because it is based off a book. And I don't, sometimes they do those adaptations where it's like we're following more closely to the book than the old movie. That could be the situation that's actually going to happen, which I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing interviews with Edgar Wright and he would quote the source material of the book rather than the movie. Mm-hmm. What makes you excited about it? Obviously, it's Edgar Wright, but...
Of course. I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to say because I don't know too much about it. Mm-hmm. There's not too much to say, but I would be surprised if it kind of goes in a more serious tone because I feel like you mentioned, it's very cheesy, so I could feel like you could take advantage of that cheesiness and like do something like really special with that, especially since it's like a game show too. Yeah. Since those are kind of like a lot more cheesier than like say like a reality TV show, Yeah.
No, I agree. I guess the thing that I find interesting is Edgar Wright hasn't done a film in a little bit, and to come back and not do something that is like one of his own original stories, I find interesting. Mm-hmm. What about him piqued with Running Man? What piqued his interest to where he was like, I want to do this. I want this to be my next film,
Yeah.
I just find that with like artists, anytime they're given like a project that's not theirs, it's like, well, I wonder what connected with them. What was it that
maybe it was like an influence for them. Maybe it was something they were like kind of passionate about,
Yeah. No, it's very interesting, and I feel like if it's not Edgar Wright, then I wouldn't be as excited as I am. Because granted,
depends,
the first movie, it wasn't great. It was interesting. Sure. I am kind of surprised that this hasn't been done sooner, because I feel like with obviously like the Hunger Games coming out, these dystopian kind of futuristic movies, Squid Games, like these stories that take these concepts and, put it through the lens of, well, in the past, years ago, like these dystopian futures were, so out there. And now it's like with the way people talk about the world and everything, it's like, I don't know if they're more drawn to those types of stories now, if that's something that just connects with pop culture now.
I feel like it's probably something with like the commentary maybe, you know, because and it's just more relevant to like what's going on in like the climate of like the world, like politically and everything.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely. However, I am very excited. I think
same.
you and me are on the same page with Edgar Wright. He just makes good movies. He's a great storyteller. As far as release date, I'm gonna assume 2026.
Probably.
If they can get it done faster. I didn't know how far along they were in terms of making it. I don't know if he's writing it as well. As far as how this whole thing is going to go about, I don't know. I just remember seeing the announcement and I texted you right away being like,
yeah, I
oh,
saw
wow.
it like a day before you had texted me. I was like, wait, what's this running, man?
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, if you get a chance, I don't know, watch the 80s one. It's, to me, watching movies from that time period is always very entertaining and interesting.
It's a time capsule of sorts.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that'd be a fun recommendation sometime.
Yeah. Maybe we could do like a comparison or something with the new one or something. But Edgar Wright's style, his timing and everything just is so unique. It stands on its own that he could announce that he's making the Emoji Movie 2, and I would be buying my tickets and I would be excited. He's just an artist that I've connected with, and I know you're the same.
Yes.
So really, whatever he does, I'm going to watch it.
Yeah,
Like,
of course. Absolutely.
Are you excited for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Rated R?
I kind of would be curious just to see what it looks like because I don't know. The last time they did live action, I wasn't really all that impressed with it.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, yep,
Just Michael
this
Bay.
Is like Michael Bay he made Ninja Turtles, and he made them very fratty and kind of just misogynistic, and it's all the great things about Michael Bay that just people really love about him, I guess, but.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd be curious to see what footage looks like or like what the turtles are going to look like because I really liked that new Ninja Turtles film and I was kind of hoping they were going to do more just of like doing different styles of animation with like the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
I feel like there's so much potential with like animation, like there's a lot you could do with animation that you can't really do with like live action, and mostly with animation, like it's gonna look better than like a live action, which will probably look aged in like a year or two.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know too much about the Turtles. That sounds weird. I'll be honest. I did not grow up watching Turtles.
Go, Ninja, go.
The first Turtles thing I saw was that recent movie that came out last year. Like, I remember we went to see it with, friends of ours who are Ninja Turtle fans. And I remember asking them, like, oh, what do you think compared to this adaptation compared to some of the others you had seen? And I don't know. I just find that interesting. It was like, it wasn't the right time for me to get invested something like that when clearly it would have done a lot better if I was 10 or 11.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy the movie. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was a good movie. And I walked away really happy that I went to go see it.
Yeah, same.
But I just don't know too much about Ninja Turtles lore. I guess the only thing I have heard is that there is an original adaptation. The first adaptation was something that was very adult and was something that was a lot more darker. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if that's maybe why they're making this. Do they want to appease the crowd that does love that original source material? But even then, I feel like maybe that's a small audience.
Yeah, exactly. It's so niche. And even then, it's like, I don't know, like Turtles is so ingrained into pop culture and it's more of like now like this thing for kids. I don't know how well that's going to work.
Yeah. I guess the only thing I might say that if I'm just playing devil's advocate is the kids who grew up watching these movies, they're older now. They're adults themselves. Maybe they do want to see something that necessarily isn't just for kids. I mean, again, that's just me saying it. Like, sure. I am not in their shoes, so I don't know exactly. But I feel like they wouldn't have greenlit this movie if there wasn't talk of it. you know.
Yeah.
But again, I might see it. I know my girlfriend is she grew up reading that comic, that original, you know, Turtles source material, and watching the show. So we'll see. More than likely, I might give it a try. But the only thing that's throwing me for a loop is the live action. I'm like, those ones that came out, the Michael Bay ones, I'm sorry.
Well, because those were kind of, I mean, they're not like rated R, but those were kind of like a bit more adult. Like they were really trying to appease to that like teenager male high school crowd. Yeah. You know, and it didn't
like
really,
raunchy humor.
Yeah, a little raunchy. Kind of like your usual Michael Bay. And
just action.
Michael Bay-isms, I guess, you know, like your Transformers, you know.
I'm sorry, whoever the villain was it Shredder? Or
is it Shredder? I don't remember. It was
he just straight up looked like a Transformer. The moment I saw him in the trailer, like with all these swords and everything, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a Transformer. Yeah. Like, that's just a repackaged Transformer.
He does that a lot. But yeah, so I don't know. Like, it's like they've tried it before, and so I'm just like, you're going to do this again? Like, I don't know. Unless they have something very interesting to say, you know?
Yep.
Maybe, but I'm not really putting my money on it. I'm probably not going to see it, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, again, there's like kind of no trailers or like any stills or anything, so it's kind of hard to be like, well, what is this going to be like, you know?
I guess
there's no footage of it, but
the only thing they base it off of is it's called The Last Ronin, which is like some crazy good story in like the Ninja Turtles crowd, like that. Apparently that's like a really beloved piece of source material. I don't know. Again, that's just the title of the movie, so that's why people seem excited. I really have no idea what I'm talking about.
I don't either, because I'm not a Ninja Turtles fan.
But we'll see. We'll see where it goes. There was some other movie news, obviously, stuff I just don't really... Apparently, they showed off Gladiator 2, like it's going to be the next Ben-Hur or something. And
it's unfortunate, because one of my favorite actors is going to be in it.
Oh, really?
So, I'm like, he's been in a lot of great films for the past couple of years, and I'm just like, man, he's going to be part of this. I'm like, man.
I'm just going to leave it at the Ridley Scott discussion is coming, and I am not a fan. I'm just going to say that right now, and that discussion is coming. But we'll save that for another day. Time for our main discussion. I gave Wallied the recommendation of 2013, a movie called Locke, I believe. It was 2013?
Yes, Locke, 2013.
A movie that I felt just came and went under the radar. I remember when I went to go see it, there was nothing but old people in the theater. Probably because it was a daytime showing. But, you know, I feel like it deserves maybe a little more attention.
So do you want to give us like a general plot or idea of what the movie's about?
Yes.
Spoilers for this discussion?
Spoilers. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend checking it out. It is a very... it doesn't require much. I feel like anyone can get something out of this story. So please, I encourage you to check it out. Intro. There is a man... at the beginning of the film, we see him get into a car. He is leaving a construction site, and it has given us the attention that he is heading home from a day of work. However, he quickly makes a couple phone calls, and we realize that his life is forever going to be changed on this car ride. And we find out that he is not going home. He has another destination where he must head to. And throughout the course of the film, we find out more about that and the repercussions of something that he did in his life. The whole film takes place inside of this car. The main actor, Tom Hardy, is the only actor in this movie besides other voice actors. And saying that and realizing that this movie is very, very small scale, it's almost like this shouldn't work. Like me thinking in my head, how does this movie take place in just side of a car, and he's just talking over the phone? Yeah. And very quickly you get invested. Very quickly, it turns into, it has like a thriller side to it, you know? It's just, I realized I was getting on the edge of my seat with some of the things that were happening in the movie. And I feel like compared to some other movies, it is very much in the gray area between black and white of morally, this guy is not necessarily a good person. Yet with his actions and everything he does, it's almost like he's redeeming himself for this stuff. Now, in the movie, very early on, you find out that Locke has a child about to be born. It is not his wife's child. It is with someone else that he made a mistake with. However, he wants to accept responsibility for this. And throughout the movie, you find out that this is who he is as a person. He gets to the point where he's basically fired from his job, yet he still feels the responsibility of, no, I need to do this to the best of my ability in this car right now. And it's so interesting because I'm like, this guy does, throughout this whole movie, I'm like, he doesn't need to do any of this.
He doesn't.
After
he commits to the whole thing.
Yeah. And after his day at work, he could have just gone home. Like, he could have just pretended like nothing mattered. He could have went to his job the next day. He could have avoided this whole situation. Yet he tries to be there for everyone in his life due to the fact that he has some demons in his past with his own father. You know, he feels challenged by that, by someone who failed him in his upbringing, you know, and I guess I sympathize with that a lot, you know, having a dad who, granted, it wasn't awful or anything, but, you know, you learn through the mistakes of watching, you know, your parents growing up, where things go wrong. Those become moments in your life that you remember. And it's almost like, if I'm ever put in that same situation, you tell yourself, I'm never going to do what they did, you know? However, in this instance, he realizes that maybe this mistake did make me close to my dad, but even then, I'm going to handle this in a way that's different. I'm going to be there for that kid. I'm not going to leave him. I'm not going to let him wonder where his father is. And it's so enthralling. And he goes... He tells his wife what he's doing. He tells his work what is going on. And it's just like, wow, he is just accepting responsibility for everything. And it's so funny because when you find out that he did cheat on his wife and he's having this kid, you hate him. You don't sympathize with him. But throughout the course of the movie, you just start to, you can't help but root for him. You're like, I hope he can get this. I hope he can work it out. Very good movie. I'm very interested to see what you thought about it.
Yeah. Wow, that was a lot. I really liked it. I thought it was pretty good. Like you, I went into this not knowing anything about it. I had only ever really heard things about the film, just that it was good and that this was one of Tom Hardy's better performances. And I guess going into it, I had thought it was going to be like kind of like a phone booth type of film, or it was going to be like very like action, cheesy thriller type of film, you know, just from like looking at like the poster. That's kind of like what I had thought it was going to be. Yeah. But I was very surprised.
The poster does look like that. I'm not going to lie. All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're all good. No, it's true though. But yeah, so I was very surprised that it was a drama film and that this whole film was taking place in a car. And I was surprised how invested I got, because I was kind of thinking like, this can get kind of tiring after a while. This kind of seems this could get kind of like maybe gimmicky, but it never goes into that, you know? And considering the use of like the camera work in the film and like the way it would kind of like transition, I really loved that a lot about the film, with just how like the very minimal use of like just one guy in this car and him just basically calling other people. I really loved like how it would kind of like transition from like either him like as like a close-up shot, or like it would be like a mirror shot or like a highway shot. I thought it really gave like a really great atmosphere and vibe to like the overall film, you know, like during the nighttime. Going into those calls too, I really loved the voice performances from all of them. Olivia Colman I thought was incredible. She was fantastic as like the one giving birth, and it's like just so sad, but it's like you feel really sorry for her a lot of the time. And I put this in my notes here. It said, "Poor Donald, he deserved better." The poor guy goes through like so much. Oh my
god!
And I really loved his performance in the film. Like it's like you can tell like just like the range he had, where he would like go from being like calm and kind of stressed to like literally like just blowing up at Locke because he's so fed up with like him giving him orders. I thought that was like really great. I loved one of my favorite voice performances. It's very small. Was like when he's calling the city council guy and he's all. I was surprised how comedic it was, and I was like, he's all, "I'm at an Indian restaurant. I'm at an Indian restaurant." Oh my god, I was like laughing so hard. I was like, that was hilarious. Yeah, I was kind of surprised with how like it was blending genres kind of really well with like drama, a little bit of comedy sprinkled in there, and also kind of a little bit of thriller, you know, because you're like, what is gonna happen? Where is he gonna go? How far is he gonna take this? You know?
Yeah.
One of my other favorite lines in the film was like during that whole soccer match thing, whereas when like his son Eddie tells him, he's like, "Why aren't you going mad when we got the score?"
Yeah.
And he says, and he like tells his son, he's like, "Well, I'm going mad inside." And that to me, I think really shows what this film is trying to go for, is that this is a guy who you can tell, at least from what I got out of it, is that he's been bottling this up for like a while.
Yes.
Like he has like kind of a big ego when it comes to buildings. He's very just like, he's very set in his ways. And as the film goes along, it's like he shows more emotion. He is like breaking down pretty much. Like he's losing everything like as the film just goes along. It's like, how much worse can it get for this guy? And I thought like the way it portrayed that character progression throughout the film, I thought was really, really well done. I also really loved the pacing of the film, you know, because I could see this getting like kind of tiresome after a while. And I thought the pacing worked really well, considering it's very short. It's only like 80 minutes. It really does just keep you on the edge of your seat the entire time. And you never know where the film is going to go for a lot of it. And I really loved like that editing and pacing where it's like, it just keeps you invested and you just like cannot keep your eyes off the screen for the entire time.
Definitely.
I also really loved the sound design for like those phone calls, because it does sound like actual phone calls. Like it does sound like somebody like when you call, because that's kind of an issue I have sometimes with films where like you hear someone calling and it's like it sounds too polished
Perfect
to be
audio.
Like, yeah, it sounds too good to be mixed, you know. It's like, so I kind of appreciate that the film uses sound design to like its advantage, considering like with the phone calls, it's like, yeah, it sounds very kind of like a little distorted. It sounds like a little disjointed. And I also really loved like with just with the ambiance, with like hearing the cars passing by. I also loved how like throughout the film you can hear like call incoming from like the BMW, you know.
Yeah.
I thought that was like really, really, really well done. I also loved the intro sequence. I thought it was really well done. I love how it just hooks you in immediately.
Right away.
Yeah. I really loved like that out of focus shot with like the cars while it was like showing like the text popping up. I thought that was like a really, really cool detail that they used a couple times throughout the film. It gives it like almost this kind of like out of focus, like you're almost like in the character's headspace, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
I gotta ask, you know who the guy who plays Eddie is, right?
Who?
It's Tom Holland.
Oh,
His son.
really?
His son in the film. Yeah,
Wow.
I didn't know this until like the credits, and I was like, whoa, like no way. It was like cool to see him like before like Spider-Man.
That's
like,
great.
Yeah, the kid who voices Eddie is actually Tom Holland.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
Very surprised by that. I was like, no way.
So you had Venom and Spider-Man
In the same
before they
movie.
were there. Like you said, you feel like it could get tiresome being in this car, or, maybe it might not hold my interest the whole time. It starts out very strong with the revelation of this guy made a mistake. This guy did something that he needs to fix. And in very quickly in the beginning, you have calls with his wife, you have calls with his son, you have calls with his boss at work, you have calls with one of his coworkers that he's in charge of. And they front load a lot of this on you. And I feel like maybe around that 20-minute mark, you might be like, well, what else is there for this film to, it starts out very strong, yet it expands on that stuff. And you start to realize this guy needs to do this. He's someone who's driven by that. He doesn't want to let people down. And very, very interesting. But those characters can often come off as maybe like, okay, this isn't realistic. Come on. At some point, I would just give up. I wouldn't care, But I feel like they do it in the lens of, he isn't perfect. He made mistakes. Maybe even calling these people on the car ride isn't the right move. Maybe calling his wife and telling her maybe he should have waited, or maybe he should have handled this better. But the way they go about it, it just piques your interest, and you start to feel for this character of, okay, he did something really shitty, but he's doing all he can to make it right.
Of course. One of my favorite things about the film is that it takes this character who's very unlikable and is like kind of a scumbag, and like they are able to find a way where it's like you're kind of rooting for him, but it's almost like this like character study of like you're just seeing this entire guy's life fall apart.
Yeah.
And I love how even though he is like unlikable and he's kind of an ass and he's very egotistical about his building, like just the concrete and everything, they find a way where like he's still just very sympathetic, and you feel very sorry for him for everything that he's like kind of going through, all the mistakes that he's made. I think one of the saddest scenes for me, at least in the film, was like where he's basically confessing like he had an affair with his wife. It's kind of like towards, I would say, like the beginning and the middle, and she just keeps calling, and she's just like, this isn't true. Like this has to be made up, and it kind of breaks my heart, because this is almost kind of like something that does happen in real life.
Exactly.
Where, and a lot of it is up for interpretation. You can kind of think like, well, maybe is he not happy with his life? Is he not having a great marriage? Is he just trying to look for more for something in life? Is he going through like maybe a midlife crisis type of thing?
Yeah.
And that was kind of one thing I was thinking about a lot watching the film, and especially like the talks with his dad. It's like he's almost kind of making those same mistakes that his dad is. And I think kind of one of my little criticisms with that is that I do wish they explored that like dad side just a bit more, because there is a lot to just get out of that,
No, I agree. It's so interesting. After the movie's over, it's like you want to find out more.
Yeah, there's so much, like, because a lot of the film you don't know. There's a lot of unknowns about the film, and so a lot of it is up for interpretation. So it's kind of for you to like kind of put the pieces together of like why is he doing this? Like why? What are his intentions? What are his motivations? Like how did we even get to this conclusion to begin with, And that's one thing I really like about the film is that it doesn't really tell you. It's just, it really leaves it up for you to decide.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I think like the director did a really, really great job with.
One thing I don't know if it was the director, writer, or if it was Tom Hardy himself, but the choosing to have Tom Hardy talk in this Welsh accent was
It's very surprising
amazing. It
because I'm
was
so
genius.
used to him as like with an American accent a lot of the time. So it's like, oh yeah,
I feel like to
like,
go back
he's European.
and to like hear his voice, there's just like a certain calmness to the way he talks, his inflections and everything that
He's very subtle. It's very natural.
I feel like if he were to do an American accent or something, it wouldn't feel the same, you know?
It'd be a little awkward.
And it's like
Yeah.
maybe even the accent is why I start to sympathize with him and like second guess like, well, okay, like how does he feel, you know?
Yeah.
And my defense wall wasn't up because it was not American, you know? I feel like I would be judging him a lot more if he was talking
Interesting.
in an American way. I don't know. Okay. I don't know where they chose to come up with that accent, but I think it was it lends to the film's credit, you know? It just really works.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to talk about Tom Hardy's performance just for a bit. I really love the subtleties in his performance.
Yeah.
You know? Because I feel like with a film like this, it could be over the top or it could be like too dramatic where it's almost just comes off kind of cringe.
Yeah.
But I love how the film really restrains itself. And I love how Tom Hardy restrains himself a lot from the film. Like even when he does get angry or he's like sad, it's very subtle. You know? There's a lot of, it's going off of a lot of like facial gestures or like just the way he uses like his body language, you know. It's one of my favorite types of performances where it's just very subtle, not showing a lot of emotion, but you can still tell how the character is feeling.
Yeah.
And I thought the film did a very great job with portraying that, you know, with him confessing this affair, with him talking to the lady who's about to give birth. You know, even when he's talking to like the coworker, Donald, like he's so calm through like the whole thing. He's like, yeah, traffic's okay. I'll be there in a bit, you know? Cause like if this was anybody else, they would be kind of like over the top, like, hurry up. I'm gonna get there. Hurry up.
X amount of time away.
You know? And so I was very surprised by that. That really caught me off guard. I wasn't thinking the film was going to do that. Even like calm anger, you know, which I feel like is the scariest type of anger in a film.
Yeah.
You know, he does very, very well with that, you know?
Yeah.
And I love how the film, like, even though like it's just calls, like he doesn't have the radio on. He doesn't have like the game on like he said he was probably going to do.
Yeah.
You know? But I love how it's just like, he's just so quiet, and it's like the film is like when he's not taking calls, it's like he's like all over, like his thoughts are like all over the place, you know. And I think the film, like using that silence, it does a really great job with that.
Yeah, you know? And you keep track of everyone very well, despite not ever seeing what these people look like or their face. You start to know like Donald, his wife, and then when it would say like call from so and so, it was like, what's going to happen, you know?
It's almost like you can picture it. It's like you can kind of come up with like what the person looks like, what they're doing at the moment, you know?
Exactly.
It's like kind of like when you are calling someone, it's like you are like trying to figure out like, what is this person doing right now? What do they kind of look like, you know?
And I guess my own personal enjoyment of the film does come from when things go wrong in my life. It tends to happen all at once.
Yeah, and all just
like I can't tell you the amount of times like my car's like one time my car broke down, but it was on the day I had an interview at like a job, so I had to run to that interview because I happened to get in my car 30 minutes before the interview started, and I could only make it there in so much amount of time, you know. And it's just like in my life when things go wrong, everything tends to happen all at once. And it's like you question, you're like, why does this all have to happen now? And I think that's one of my personal enjoyments of the film is everything is going wrong in this guy's life at this moment.
It's just like one thing on top of another. It's like scoops of ice cream, but like not in like the best, but just like every single thing that could go wrong goes wrong.
Yeah. You know? His son's questioning what's going on, and he has to explain, and he tells him, I'll explain in person. I'll do, you know, and I think there is one line that he says in the film of, you know, things go according to plan. And I think that's a juxtaposition to his character where it's like he probably does plan this stuff out. Like he said, the baby wasn't supposed to happen right now.
Yeah, it's very unexpected.
Yeah, and I think they throw that at him to where it's like, you don't have a plan. How are you going to work this out? You know, very interesting. Again, I think it's a movie that just went under the radar at the time, because I remember watching it and I loved it, and it was one of my favorite films of the year it came out. And this was before I would consider myself someone who was more into, artsy type films. It was at a time where I was seeing like a lot of action movies and comic book movies, and yet I saw this film and I got something out of it. I don't know. I really wish more people had seen it. I guess now the one thing I'm hoping with is this is early A24, A24 is becoming such a popular name, and I hope that people will look back and experience this film and check it out,
It's like we kind of mentioned last episode. This is kind of like when A24 was still like a distribution company, and not even more like a production company like it is now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see like some of the films that they would distribute, like this, like I feel like if this came out today and it had like the A24 logo, you'd be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
This is A24.
Definitely.
So it's kind of fascinating to kind of think of that. I did have a few issues with the film I wanted to kind of get into. I was not a big fan of the music. I really didn't care for the music. I thought it was kind of generic, and I feel like it kind of took me out of the film a little bit. It was like, oh yeah, I'm watching a movie,
The only thing I really liked with the music was when it would bring in like the drums, because it kind of led to like the chaos of what was going on.
Sure.
Other than that, I couldn't recall any of the music that was in the movie because it didn't really do anything.
Yeah. Because like I feel like if it didn't have music, I feel like I would love it a lot more, just because like of how it, when there isn't music, like I love like those scenes where it's just using silence and it's like you're only hearing like the phone calls and like just the cars driving by. But yeah, it just felt like kind of like temp music or like generic like thriller drama music, that you'd find on like a website. I was just kind of like, wasn't too big on. And then I guess I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on like just the ending, because for me, I thought the ending was a bit underwhelming. I do kind of wish we had a little bit more time with just like seeing like him get to this destination, and like finally getting there and just kind of like not resolving everything, but I kind of wanted to see like a few other things resolved, like maybe with, like I mentioned before, like him with like having these like talking to himself, like pretending to talk to his dad, and then like, him actually making it to see the baby. I'm not sure if there was maybe like just like budget constraints or something, but
it could have been.
That's kind of like one thing I was just like, that could have been a lot better, and I think you could have worked on the ending a little more.
I guess my interpretation of the ending is like everything that he risked all his life on, it didn't work out. He didn't make it on time. The baby was born without him. Granted, he's still going there, but I think it was just meant to feel more of like, damn, like maybe he could have just waited until the next day after this job was done. And I think the ending is meant to be maybe a little bit more sad, of like
a little bit more pessimistic.
Yeah,
like he felt like it was a little bit more hopeful, but I'm not entirely sure.
I guess it is up for interpretation, but I guess I was just like, everything he risked his job, his wife, his family on, even then he wasn't able to be there for that moment. I guess that's how I took it. Granted, I do wish there was a little bit more closure with some of the side stuff like you mentioned. Maybe it was due to budget constraints or filming.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do like how it leaves me wanting to find out
more. Yeah. There's a discussion to be had after the film is over.
Exactly. But yeah, I'll agree with you on that one. I feel like maybe they could have thought of something a little bit better.
Yeah.
Maybe it could have hit just a little bit harder. Like, I don't know.
Because for the most part, like the entire film is great, and it's just like that ending was like, okay.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, that could have been a little better, but I could kind of understand wanting to leave some things like interpretable, which I'm completely down for.
Yeah.
Love, but yeah.
Was there anything else?
Yeah, I was also kind of curious. So the director of this film, I was wondering if you had seen any other films of his.
I think I might have seen a few of them, but I don't think they had as much of an impact.
Okay.
He kind of seemed more of like a director that I was like, wait, he made this?
Yeah, because I'm just looking here, like on like IMDb, like the film he made after Locke was a film called Serenity with Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway. And all I've ever really heard about the film is that it's like funny bad and like it's like one of the worst movies ever. So I was just kind of curious if you had kind of like seen any of his other films. He has one other film that he made before this, before Locke, called Redemption with Jason Statham. I've heard decent, okay things about it. So. Yeah, he doesn't have too many films, though. This is kind of just like his, I guess, most popular film, maybe? I don't know. Or like his most acclaimed.
Yeah.
But.
I mean, I don't know whether to lend credence to his directing, the writing, or if Tom Hardy did pull a Hail Mary with his performance. Yeah. I don't know where a lot of the credit is supposed to be given to. It's a very interesting question. I don't know. But for some reason, everything in this movie seemed to come together very well.
It worked really well.
Despite, being a very, very small stakes type of movie,
Yeah. Small stakes, but high stakes, like at the same time.
I very much enjoyed this film, and I feel like hopefully there can be kind of a rediscovering of everything.
Yeah, I'm surprised the film isn't more popular considering like Tom Hardy's in it. I feel like it's one of those films that I feel like maybe in the future will gain a bit more of a cult following.
Yeah.
Because that seems to kind of be a common thing, But I don't know. I was very surprised. Like this is a lot better than I would expect for a film that is like taking place in a car, I feel like if this were given to like any other director, I feel like it wouldn't maybe work as well, but it obviously would depend on the writer director. But for what this came out to be, like there's a lot of substance here and there's a lot to just like interpret and take back, like just get out of the film, It's a film I honestly would be willing to just even watch again.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, just overall really enjoyed it. I feel like for me, the acting and the drama and just the writing overall was like easily my favorite part of the film. And just how minimal use of cinematography and just minimal use of like just taking advantage of the fact that it takes place in a car. It does a very, very good job with that, and just being able to keep you on the edge of your seat for the entire time. And
you get, I feel like with it being as isolated as you're in for the ride with him.
Yes.
You get to know what it's
you're
like.
Along the ride, yeah.
You get to know what it's like to have things that are out of your control, yet you're just stuck. Like you have a destination, and like you can try to have an impact on things as much as you can, but it's like I really am just gonna find out what happens,
Yeah, exactly.
Very enjoyable film. I hope it does get a resurgence a little bit. I still have never seen it on streaming. Like I've never seen it on Netflix or Hulu. So I don't know if maybe there's some distribution things with this movie that I don't know about.
Yeah, maybe it'll find an audience there. I kind of hope,
I hope so. I don't know, with HBO or Max, whatever the freak it's called, being tied to A24, I was hoping I would find it on there, but for some reason, there might be some issues with streaming it for this film. But I hope it does get that resurgence because it really went under the radar at the time, and it's been over 10 years, and I still feel like it deserves to be talked about.
Yeah.
Do
you feel like maybe why it was under the radar? Do you think maybe it was because it wasn't a too big of a film, or do you feel like maybe it wasn't marketed well?
I definitely will say it was not marketed well because I didn't know anything about it. But I feel like if maybe they, like the way A24 markets now, they lean into those, you know, unique ideas. I feel like if the marketing would have maybe lend credit to, you're about to watch someone in a car ride who is gonna have the most challenging part or part of his life that he's ever experienced. You know, lend into that. Show that that's what this story is about. I feel like people might have piqued their interest to be like, wait, what happens? You know?
Yeah. I think for me, like, I'm just trying to think, like, while I was watching the film, like, especially after, I was thinking, like, how could you market a movie like this, you know? I feel like if they were, it would be, like, very, like, oh, yes, this is going to be, like, an action thriller.
Oh,
type,
yeah.
Because, like...
Show dramatic music of him driving.
Yeah. You know, so that's kind
Which
of
is really what the poster looks like.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah, exactly. That's, like, kind of a vibe I got when you recommended this. I was thinking, like... Okay, you're gonna recommend it's gonna be like an action movie?
Yeah.
Is this what this is?
The poster, if you guys haven't seen, look at the poster. It looks like Unstoppable with Chris Pine and Denzel Washington. It is so generic.
It looks like a phone booth type of movie. That film with Colin Farrell.
Yeah. But
yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully it does get a little bit of a resurgence. Overall, I really recommend it to everyone. It is just a movie that anytime I can recommend it, I'll make sure to do it. Because I feel like anyone can watch this and get invested.
Something out of it. Yeah, definitely.
I want to say an 8, but I'll give it like a 7.5. Anywhere between that 7.5 to 8. I feel like it's really good.
Yeah.
I would say it's better than your average film.
Yeah. I would say I'm like a little above. I originally had this as a 7 out of 10, like a high 7 out of 10, but honestly, just from us kind of talking about this and me kind of maybe wanting to just recheck out the film, I'm going to give it like a low 8 out of 10, you know?
Nice.
Really loved it. I was very surprised by this movie. I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy it as much, so I ended up really, really enjoying it and loving it. So, yeah. Yeah, just overall very enjoyable, very gripping film, you know?
Yeah.
Just keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time. So really enjoyed that.
Check it out if you guys haven't seen it. I had to rent it off YouTube. Wallied rented it from the library.
Yes, yeah.
So you might have to do a little digging, but I mean, you guarantee any purchasable streaming service like, you know, buying movies off Prime, YouTube, they'll have it. But definitely check it out. I really hope one day this film is mentioned a little bit more than it is now.
Yeah, thank you for the recommendation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to let Wallied introduce our next recommendation for next show. And yeah.
All right. I'm pretty excited to recommend this one. I hope you enjoy it. So the film I'm going to recommend is a film called One Cut of the Dead. It is a film from 2017, and all I am going to say about this movie is that it is a one-take zombie film, and that you should stay till the credits. It is a Japanese horror comedy film, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I don't want to say too much about it because it's a very easy film to spoil. I think even me saying what it would be about would actually spoil the whole film.
Wow.
So, yeah. I hope you enjoy it, Nabahi. It's a very unique, fascinating film.
Yeah.
I don't think I've really seen a film like it, honestly. Wow. Very, very low budget. It was $25,000 pretty much.
Wow.
And with what they did with that budget is very impressive. And yeah, really love it. Hope you stay till the credits for this one. It's really, really something special. And yeah. For our audience members, if you guys don't want to be spoiled for One Cut of the Dead from 2017, you guys can watch it before the next episode. And I hope you all enjoy it.
One thing I will say is I love finding movies like this. movies that I've not heard about, movies that fly so under the radar that you can't even find them on streaming or on like.
Unfortunately,
yeah.
So hopefully you guys can find it.
I'm very excited. That's the one thing that one of the one things that I appreciate so much about Wallied's point of view is he knows movies like this. He knows movies that more than likely 99% of people have never heard of or have not even considered the possibility that it was made, you know. And that's the cool thing with this podcast is there are those artists out there who commit so much to their vision and, you know, they get it out and maybe 10 people saw it, you know, maybe it went under the radar and we want to shed more light on those types of stories. Obviously, we'll talk about our favorite big budget things and you know,
of course,
more relevant stuff, but maybe sometimes we're going to mention a film that no one has seen.
Yeah.
We're on episode 2. Hopefully this saw a little improvement over the last one. I apologize for my voice. I did lose it over the week, so it's kind of like it's coming out of it a little bit. So if you ever heard my voice break or something, I'm sorry. Hopefully I'll be 100% by the next episode. But I'm loving this. I am so excited about everything. Yeah, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep doing this. And I am very, very ambitious with how I want this podcast to evolve, and doing different things like reviews and discussions, rants, arguments. But I hope that comes off or is presented in a unique way. And I hope that I have a unique voice as well as Wallied. We just want to offer discussions that, you know, maybe other podcasts or review channels don't really talk about, you know, because I feel when me and Wallied were talking about movies, it always sounded very different, you know, and the way I talk about movies is very different to, I guess, how a lot of other people might talk, you know. But
for sure.
Very excited. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, really enjoyed the discussion. I thought we got a lot out of this. Thank you again for the recommendation. I'm hoping I can hopefully just shine more of a light on this film, as it has gotten a bit of a following, but I would love more people to see it and give it kind of the recognition it deserves. So, yeah. That's kind of where I'm at, you know. I'm excited to talk about this film.
We're going to keep making podcasts. We'll eventually have guests on the show. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you all for listening.
Thank you guys so much. Very excited about the next episode. And go see Locke if you haven't seen it. Go see
One Cut of the Dead if you have not seen it. Exactly.
That's why we're here, is to talk about movies and I want to connect with people. And the way I do that is through the things that I like. You know, if I like something and I find someone else who likes something, I have a connection with that person. You know. Sometimes on a deeper level rather than just like working with someone. I don't know. I care a lot about movies and I get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Same.
So yeah, look forward to next episode. Thank you guys so much. It was a lot of fun.
Bye.
And good night, Los Angeles.
Good night, tri-state area.